lovely to be here with you. It's been too long. You have a piece of paper, and many of you have pens. There are some other pens over there. Before I say anything, you didn't get it. I got extras. You did? What I'd love if you could do is write on one side of the piece of paper that which you would most like to be experiencing in the near future. In life or there? Whatever. Whatever is the most wonderful thing you can think of to be experiencing. Yes. Write on your little piece of paper on one side, it's what you would most like to be experiencing, the most wonderful thing that you could be experiencing. It might be a thing or a person or an event or a situation or more money or I don't know. What would that be? There's a wonderful teacher whose work I often reference, and those of you who have taken my classes have heard her name many times, Emma Curtis Hopkins. And she has 12 lessons to facilitate moving from our normal way of living to being able to truly experience the most wonderful things we could experience all the time. And the first lesson, she says that whatever it is that we are seeking, whatever it is that is pushing us and pulling us and moving us on in our lives is our good. And because it pushes us and pulls us and moves us in our lives, has become our God. And then she tells us to consider, why is the thief running in the night? Because he's seeking his good. And she tells us to consider, why is the prince reeling drunk through the palace? Because he's seeking his good. And his good is his God, because it pulls him and pushes him and moves him on. In the Unitarian-Universalist Association, we talk about 7 principles, but we don't talk very often about the 6 sources. And that's what I've been focusing on lately, is these 6 sources. And one of them is discovering and avoiding idolatries of mind and spirit. In the beginning of Moses' journey with the Israelites in the Sinai wilderness, he comes down from the mountain with a set of tablets, then he gets very angry and he throws them down, and then he goes back up and makes some more and comes back. And the tablets basically have been interpreted as saying, I am the Lord your God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Now in America we call those commandments. In other parts of the world they recognize that the Latin and the Hebrew do not have that form as they are written. They have it as a promise. It is a promise that once we truly recognize that the source of all, that pervades everything, that is bringing forth every possible experience for all beings everywhere, is the focus of our desire, then we will have no other goods before that good. And that good being everywhere present, omnipresent, and being that which brings forth everything and guides everything is omnipotent. and being the intelligence underneath and unfolding as everything is omniscience. And so Emma teaches us that our normal ideas of good have actually made idolaters of us. And that hurts. It was the first time I really understood what the first commandment meant as I studied Emma's work. All the times that I thought the most important thing in my life was the next job or the next relationship or that my kids be healthy or that the house be clean because we've got company coming or yeah, the most important thing in the moment, I literally had created an idol and placed it before the omnipotence of all that is. Wow. Unitarian as opposed to Trinitarian. We don't accept the idea that God is three, we say God is one. And yet we continually put other things more important. So what I'd like to do is help make that shift for us. And I'd like you to turn the piece of paper over, and those of you who still have a pen, write the qualities that this experience that you have longed for stand for. Okay? So think about it. If what you're looking for is a new car because the old one is worn out, is it because you're looking for safe, reliable, easy ways to get where you're called to be? That's a quality. All right? Or are you looking for freedom? Joyce Brothers tells the story of a middle-aged man who came to her and he was just feeling so confined and so trapped, and he really wanted a red sports car. And she looked at him and she said, "You have plenty of money in the bank, why don't you have one?" And so the next time she saw him, he drove his red sports car. And she said, "So, what did you really acquire here?" And he said, "Freedom." It was the quality of freedom that the object stood for. Another one is a relationship. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling as if I can't quite handle everything. I really need a guy or a gal in my life. What is it that you really want? You want companionship and comfort, a sense of love, a sense of being supported. Those are the qualities. So think about the qualities of the object or the experience or the item, the experience that you are ready, most longing to, that would be most wonderful. Because almost invariably those qualities are the qualities of the divine. If you think about what we call God, what do we call God? We call God beauty, harmony, order, good, truth, wisdom, freedom, power. So when you realize that the object or the material experience that you think you've been longing for is actually a symbol for the qualities you've been longing for, you begin to realize what you really long for is to experience the loving, nurturing, supportive, free presence that we call God. And you can call it any other thing. You can call it source, the universe presence. You can call goddess. I love that. You can call it whatever you wish to call it. You can name it. You can give it a name, Emmanuel. You can, any number of things, but it's the quality of the experience that you are longing. In our world, we're really encouraged to forget that, right? We're really encouraged to think that we need to be taller, fatter, thinner, whatever, or we need to have this home or that vehicle. We need to have cruise control or not cruise control. We need to have, the latest, Apple device or whatever. And many of us know people who seem to be able to or need to acquire all kinds of things. All kinds of things. I have someone in my family, not directly by marriage, who cannot leave the house without returning with something. Has to add to. Has collections of half a dozen different types. At least 6 or 8 different collections, all of them grow. And what this person is so hungry for is simply the love of spirit. That sense of, I'm okay, the world is okay. It's all good. It's all good. I can relax, I can release. That is what's really happening. That looks like going out and buying stuff at this moment. That's the symbol that that person has accepted. So what do when we realize we're longing for a brownie? Or an ice cream sundae, or that drink after we get home, right? There's actually a movement in the fundamentalist churches that say, if you think you are hungry, reach for the Bible first, because what you're really hungry for is spirit. And I have a friend who's in her 90s who insists that most people who become alcoholics have been seeking the spirit. Truly, every time we think we're hungry for something or longing for something, all we are longing for is to feel whole and complete in the oneness. That's it. Now, how do we remember that? How do we remember that? And then what do we do about it? Because, I can say I'm longing for something and reach for it and hold it, I can say I miss my children and reach for them and hold them. I was in the hospital once and was going to be there several days, and I got permission, and I had my 2 kids come up and sit on my lap. And we watched Sesame Street together. Just holding them was what I needed to feel complete in that moment, because I hadn't learned this lesson yet, but it was really wonderful. Yeah. So when we're feeling it's got to be a thing, how can we shift out of that? Well, the first thing is to realize it's okay to have the thing. That's fine. But it's not the thing that matters. The thing is standing for something else. Holding my children when I was in the hospital bed was standing for feeling totally loved and supported. And being able to express that. That's really what I had been wanting. And that was the means that let me do that. When we feel like this object or this physical experience is the only thing that's going to satisfy us, what is it really? That's the question. Now, I used to, before I got into the ministry, do a lot of business consulting. And one of the fundamental exercises that we would do is have people ask the question or answer the question, why? Why are you in business? For a profit. Why do you want to make a profit? Why are you in business? Because we have this great product. Why do you want this product to get in the world? Go to the why, below the why, below the why. There is a theory that there are 3 purposes for every organization. One is the stated purpose, one is the acted on purpose, and one is the hidden purpose that no one acknowledged. And usually that hidden purpose that no one acknowledges has to do with what I'm talking about today. It has to do with people seeking a quality of experience that they think they're going to get this way. And they may or may not. But ultimately, the only way to get the experience that they wish is to go into a space, and I don't care whether it's in the woods or in your meditation chapel, where you feel the full presence of the oneness of which we are all a part, where you experience the interconnected web of life of which we are a part, where you know that truth and meaning is at hand, where you experience fully the love that is, more and more physicists are describing and discovering, is what holds the universe together. Gravity and love could be described as the same force. When we allow ourselves to have that experience, then the other stuff becomes less important. Another point that Emma makes is that we tend to do things that we have been told or have seen spiritual people do, thinking that if we do that, we'll become spiritual. If we become vegetarians, or if we become vegans, or if we meditate 5 times a day, or we pray 5 times a day, or whatever it is that we've been told. And she points out that people who have experienced this oneness do this out of that experience of the oneness, not in order to get it. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm going to get a sip of water. Not in order to get the experience of oneness, but to feel at one with the water, yes. So we tend to do things to be spiritual. We tend to do things that spiritual people do. We tend to do things, the saints, We've been taught to behave like saints, or we've been taught to behave like these great people of wisdom and power in our lives and in our world. The little wristband, what would Jesus do, right? And yet, they don't do that to get to be that way. They do those things because they are. They do those things because they are feeling the connectedness. They pray unceasingly, to quote the New Testament, because they can't not. They feel totally connected with the oneness all the time. And Vim and Carolyn put up with me last night, this morning, it was very sweet. And this morning we talked about Fiddler on the Roof, right? And there's Tevye, and he's walking down the road. Oh God, do you have to do this to me next? If not that, why this? Even if I were a rich man, right? That's not the conversation that spiritual people have. That's the conversation that we've been trained to have, right? And we've been trained that, prayer is this beseeching, pleading, begging, God, fix this, God, do this for me, right? But every work of every spiritual master says otherwise. It's simply feeling the communion, the oneness. That's the prayer they're talking about. That's the unceasing that then allows us to experience all those other things. In the Old Testament, Solomon is appointed the king of the Jews. And he goes, oh boy, this is going to be tough. And God comes to him and says, you are it now. You are the king of all the children of God. What do you want? And Solomon says, give me some wisdom so I can do this job right. And God says, well, because you asked for that, you get everything else. You get the riches, you get the power, you get everything else. Because what he's really saying is, let me be one with your wisdom. Let me feel your wisdom working through me and expressing through me. And in that, everything else becomes possible. So the advantage of avoiding idolatries is that when we get to the qualities behind that, and we get to the truth or the meaning or the wisdom or the beauty or the love or the whatever you want to call the divinity behind that, and we go for that, all else follows. In alignment with who and what we truly are. The man who bought the red sports car sold it just a few weeks later. He didn't need the car anymore. He got the quality. He got the connection. And he began to live as the free being that we all are. And that's the invitation of avoiding idolatries of mind.